to How Empowered Women Empower Women, the February monthly meeting of Female Wave of Change Canada. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge you all for taking time out of your busy lives to be here with us this evening. Tonight, through an interactive and engaging process, you will learn about the Coaching Fellowship and its role in empowering young emerging women leaders who are positively impacting the world. You'll discover why women are the solution to today's global challenges. You'll also discover the power of virtual circles and networking for women. And finally, you will learn some practical actions you can take to empower the women around you. As mentioned, this evening is brought to you by Female Wave of Change Canada. And for those of you who don't know me, I am Pam Thompson, and I'm Ambassador for Canada of a global social movement called Female Wave of Change that's now in about 40 countries around the world. And we believe that valuing and integrating authentic feminine leadership qualities into your families, your communities, your workplaces, and your businesses holds the key to creating a better world, a more conscious, equitable, just, sustainable, and peaceful one. And you may be wondering what I mean by authentic feminine leadership qualities. They're qualities such as compassion, collaboration, creativity, inclusiveness, qualities that typically are associated with the feminine. That said, men can have these and learn these qualities as well as women. And we do have, just so you know, we do have men in our movement globally, although the focus is on women and women's leadership. So it's my pleasure to hand over the floor this evening to our vice chair, Alexandra Salamis. And she is not only the vice chair of our board, but she's a leadership development coach, change management consultant, and the president of Integral Leadership Design. Alex is going to introduce our featured guest this evening and do the large part of the interview with Jane. So Alex, over to you.
Helps if I unmute myself. Thanks a lot, Pam. And hi, everyone. I'm so honored to introduce you to our featured guest, Jane Finette. Jane is an author, a leadership expert, and the founder and executive director of the Coaching Fellowship, a nonprofit organization dedicated to the development of young women leaders in social change. Formerly, she was a business big tech exec at Mozilla and eBay. Jane has dedicated her life to achieving equality for women, empowering them to create impact across the world. Jane is the author of a new book, Unlocked: How Empowered Women Empower Women, a referendum on women's inequality and a toolkit for leveling the playing field for women and girls. She's also been, get this, a race car driver, an art gallery owner, a hat maker, and a 4-time entrepreneur. Pretty cool. I've had the beautiful pleasure of getting to know Jane, both as a colleague and as a cherished friend. So I'm absolutely thrilled to be in conversation with this truly inspirational woman. Jane, welcome, and thank you for joining us in the conversation today.
Thank you so much, Alex. And thank you, Pam, and thank you everyone for having me this evening, this afternoon, wherever you are. It's so wonderful to see you, and I really am grateful for the opportunity to share more about what I've been learning and what I've been doing the last few years too.
Thanks, Jane. I'm a huge fan, as you know, of the Coaching Fellowship and its vision and what it's achieving, and I love being part of it as a coach. Can you tell us a bit about the Coaching Fellowship and what is it and what inspired you to create it?
Yeah, thank you for asking me. And well, maybe the sort of the founding story is a good place to begin, and why I did start the organization. So as you mentioned, I was at Mozilla for a long time, and I was in the executive team. And when I joined that team, I then got access to leadership development and all of the training that I could have ever imagined. And particularly got access to one-to-one coaching, which was something I had no idea even existed. And it completely cracked my world open. And I was kind of looking in the rearview mirror saying to myself, wow, where was this 25 years ago? Because holy heck, like I need it now, but I really could have done with it a long, long, long time ago. I got very enamored with coaching. I left my big job and I got trained as a coach, and I was starting a coaching a coaching business. And I wanted to give back. And my idea was that the younger a woman is when she can get access to coaching, and therefore herself, it's that real inside out game, then she would be able to really live her life according to her values, do what makes, sorry, my words out tonight, do what's most important for her. Not burn out, really be at full choice about everything she wanted to do and be in the world. And then for me, I said, okay, well, yeah, young women need this, but young women in social change really need this, because if you're a young woman who works at Twitter or Facebook, you're probably not going to get this. But if you work at a nonprofit or a social impact founder, you're not going to get this at all. So started to offer a few pro bono places. And I had 41 women apply to get some pro bono coaching with me in 5 days. And I thought it was just going to be a smattering of women that had been poking me for a few weeks. And and I thought to myself, well, why don't I go back to the people who I had learned how to coach with and see would they like to help me with some incredible women. They came from 12 countries. As I said, they were nonprofit entrepreneurs. They were nonprofit leaders. And humbly, 16 of those co-colleagues started with me. We gave everyone a place because it wasn't a contest. It was just me, happy to be matchmaking. And of which actually Maureen Johnston, who's also on the call, was one of those very first coaches with me. And Maureen and I trained as coaches together at the Coaches Training Institute way back when, Maureen. And so she's been along for the ride for a really long time, as has Alex. I thought my job was done. 6 months later or so, more people kept coming to me asking when I was going to run another program. And I said, well, it's not a program, and I'm so sorry. And also at the same time, I had more coaches come to me and ask, when are you going to run another program? I said, it's not a program. And after 9 months, I finally surrendered. I had left a big fancy job to run a coaching business, and I thought that was my path. And I really had to surrender to doing this work, which really is my calling. I see that now. So we decided we'd run one core program. We did this for 50 women, and we had more than 700 applications from dozens of countries. So if I fast forward to today, we run 2 really big fellowship programs a year. We support 300 women a year. 1,300 plus women have gone through the program from 80 countries. They are doing everything from rehabilitating child soldiers in Sierra Leone. They're activists, they're community workers in inner city Detroit. They're working with indigenous populations in the Amazon. They are doing all the things that I was definitely not doing when I was 25 years old, but they are the most extraordinary women. And to give them the opportunity to work on their leadership is so inspiring, because some of the biggest things that get in their way are confidence, self-belief, and yet they're doing the most amazing things, in the world. So I'm like, gosh, if that's the only thing that's getting in your way to helping us, really create change, like, wow, we can work on that,
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you, Jane. I mean, and just to echo, as a coach, working with these women, I'm always just kind of gobsmacked, right, by what it is that they're trying to achieve. And I know for myself as a coach, and encourage others if they'd want to check out the coaching fellowship. It gives me so much as a coach. And I'm so glad I stumbled onto your website
We're
many
so
years
glad you
ago.
did. Yeah, well, and my sort of like my soapbox pitch, for what we do is there's just sorry, I'm diving right into talk about money, but there's so much money in the world. There really is. There's so much money in corporations, in governments, and yet the most persistent and perennial problems of our world are being left to be solved by the women who have to raise their own salary working in a nonprofit. And 75% of them are women. And so for me, I'm all about how do we help them lead? How do we help them do more? Because by God, they're the ones that are actually really solving these problems for us.
Yep.
And we need it to happen way faster than it is.
Yes. Turning to your book, what prompted you to write your book, Unlocked, and why now? Curious to know the timing of it as well.
Yes, thank you. And not to be sort of silly here, but we all had a COVID project. I'm pretty sure my husband learned how to bake the most extraordinary pizza. Actually, I have to say, like I'm really benefiting from many home cooked meals. And really, at the start of the pandemic, which we've all experienced in such challenging and different ways. For me, some of the hardest numbers that were coming out, and there were many hard numbers, right? There still are, was the numbers for women's leadership going backwards, not forwards. Whether that was the number of women leaving the workforce by the millions, whether that was the increase in domestic violence, in child abuse, whether that was the number of girls who won't have the chance to go to school. 32 million girls didn't go to school today, not because they didn't want to. And the Malala Fund says another 20 million girls will be added to that list. They will not be going back after the pandemic. And these are sobering facts. We had made very little gain anyway. And so the World Economic Forum with their women's annual report said we'd lost 36 years of progress in 2020 alone. And I was depressed and really upset. And I run a women's organization, right, working with these incredible young women doing the most amazing things. And I just was lost because I'm like, how on earth are we going to move forward? How are we going to regain what we've lost? And, how are we going to do that? And so I started reaching out to people in my network that do great things. And I thought, I'm just going to how are they doing? I'm going to connect with them, see what they're up to. How are they feeling? And many of them were also in the women and girls space. And what I was so inspired by their stories and re-engaging in my work. And headline after headline of disaster. I was like, none of these stories are being told. None of these stories about actually what's really happening, boots on the ground, creating change for women and girls is being talked about. So I wanted to share a whole bunch of inspirational stories, it was different stories. And each one of those women are just like us, just ordinary women who took a small action, which became a big thing. And I really wanted to get that across. And then the other piece, which I wrestled with for so long, because I was like, this is not rocket science, So there are 10 keys at the end of the book. There are 10 keys, which we can all do every day. It's easy stuff for us to help another sister rise around us. And I thought, everybody knows that. Is this even worth writing a book about? Do you care? Do you think this is enough? And yet those keys, those steps, I know, and I've had many, of course, conversations since the book's come out, that just one woman, each of us can tell a story about one woman who made such a difference for us, whether it was an introduction, whether it was a kind word, whether it was debriefing my feedback review at work, whatever it might have been. But it was a really small action that made a really big difference. And it isn't the sum of the parts, right? It is in all of these multiple actions, the only way change ever happens. And so the book is part inspiration and part kind of an action list for us, that we might be able to take action every day to help another
Oh,
woman.
Jane, sounds great. No, I hear you. Sometimes we tend to minimize, our impact, but I think one of the things certainly that I got out of your book was it can start with small actions, daily actions. And that, as you said, the sum is greater, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. So absolutely couldn't agree with you more.
Yes.
In your book, you use the term virtuous circles. What do you mean by a virtuous circle, and why are they important?
Yeah, I do love, I'm a bit obsessed with this word virtuous circle. And also, if you happen to read the book, I'm also obsessed with the word flywheel. So virtuous circle, and I'd like it to be turning faster than it is. It's already turning.
Right.
We help each other. We do things beautifully. We just need to do more faster. And so one of the statistics, which you might know, but one thing that I learned some years ago, which was extraordinary to me, and this is about women in the developing world, that women, when they get access to education, resources, whether that's money or food or whatever it might be, knowledge, they will give more than 90% of it back into their communities, into their families, their communities, and the world at large. For men, the number is around 30 to 40%. So when you empower one woman, you can already do the math that this is an exponential investment. And we know that when women sit at the negotiating table, there's more peace. When women are empowered with agriculture, they actually produce more yield. So there's the potential for food poverty reduction. We know that infant mortality rates will decrease, literacy rates will increase, global GDP goes up. So certainly when you work to empower another woman, you are empowering way more in the system. And that becomes a virtuous circle, an ever spinning energy of, all of the wonderful traits that you were describing that we get to bring into positions of power and influence, right? And we don't have enough of it right now. So I believe, we need, I'm not a fool and neither are you. We need an end to gender and racial bias. We need laws changed. We need a whole bunch of systems being changed. Like that is a Herculean effort. But really, everything that we can do individually as well also counts, and that is in our own virtuous circles, in our families, and our workplaces, and our community centers and churches and all. Yeah.
It's true. We tend to underestimate, right, our power. And what
Yes.
I'm hearing, and so what I'm hearing you say is, yes, we're ordinary women, but we have a lot of power in our own sphere. And,
Yes.
I think your book invites that, right? Invites the use of that, and to think about it in a more deliberate way and more actionable way, in a more conscious way. And that's what I love about your book,
Thank you,
Jane.
Alex. My favorite, so sorry, pardon.
Yeah, go ahead,
I
please.
was going to say one of my favorite quotes is from Rebecca Solnit that says, feminism isn't a campaign to deprive men. Sorry, I read it, I got it here because I really wanted to share it with you and I always fluff it up. So feminism is not a scheme to deprive men, but a campaign to liberate us all.
Yep.
I think this is
Yep.
so beautiful. Yeah, it's really the ripple, not the sea. There's all
Yep.
of these small actions that make up the ocean.
Yep. Nope. Totally agree. You speak about the importance of networking for women and how it's challenging for many, many women. Can you share, Jane, with us a bit of the research and what you've learned about women and networking?
Yeah, thank you. So one of the women I interviewed was a lady called Herminia Ibarra, and she is a professor at LSE, London School of Economics. And she was one of the original people back in the 80s that started studying women's networks and, how are they made up? How do they work in the business world? So few women, of course, in positions of power then. few here now, but there was, very, very little back in the late 80s. And she discovered something which is pervasive, which is, something that we'll all be highly aware of when I tell you, but it's something called homophily, which is, likes attract, so we can pick out, we were just chatting before we started, I'm a massive horse fan. So if you want to talk about horses with me, my God, we'll be like fast friends, like forever. And this is, of course, there's more men in positions of power and influence. And of course, we like to hang out with people who look like us and sound like us and do the same things as us. And so that perpetuates, that's another virtuous circle, alas, not great for us, but it is for that system. So we don't have a way to break in because we don't look and feel like them. So we're left out of the party. Herminia would say, when she's a professor, she's been teaching all over the world for many years, but she was often left out of the conversations. The guys would go and play some kind of ball game and they'd chit chat and, sort of like have all the banter and secrets and things like that. And she would be the last one to find out. So it was really interesting because her point was that men will build networks which are both internal and external. So they have like-minded people, very similar personalities, and they will take this out of the workplace. So they will do social things with people that look like them. For women, we do this. So we will build internal networks, but we are very not as good at creating external networks. And there's a lot of things behind that. So everything from, we don't have time. We have families. We don't have time to go to some networking event. God bless you all for making time tonight for a couple of hours together. But very often this is not always possible. And that actually maybe, Zoom has made it possible, thank goodness. But we couldn't all just go run off into our local town or city to go meet a bunch of people every week. And then furthermore, I think for us, and it certainly is true for me, I know it's not for everyone, but it feels so inauthentic. Networking is, it feels transactional. It feels like that's not something we do. It's a bit icky, it feels just like, blech. And yet we are so great at connecting and creating beautiful relationships. It's just when we put that together in the workplace, it feels all wrong. There's a lot of research about women will sometimes feel like this feels like self-promotion.
Right.
And so this gets kind of confused when we feel like, oh, we shouldn't be meeting with people because we don't have that much to offer and I'll waste their time and it's not mutual, like they might have something that I don't. And so we'll check out. And I said, this is not true for everyone, but it certainly has been true for me. What pleases me greatly is to see organizations like this, Female Way of Change, right? We're a network. We're like, things are changing. It's fantastic. And whether you look at organizations like Chief.com or Elevate or Hey Mama, a large professional network for working mothers, for Female Way of Change, we have many more opportunities now to meet. But what I would love for us to do is to really see the networking part as to be part of our job as much as everything else we do. So once a week, could we meet someone new for 30 minutes on Zoom? Someone you've never met before, someone who's not even maybe in the field you're in, but those weak ties become very important. There's research, and I had the 85, so this was Adler Group and LinkedIn. In a study they said that once you get over a certain level, 85% of jobs are filled by people within the network. So it's not, oh, I applied for a job. It's, oh, who do you know who can do X, Y, Z? Or I'm looking for a job and you get an intro, etc. So, and even more research saying that the size of your network directly correlates to how much you earn and your potential to be promoted. So, it's important.
It is important. Absolutely.
So
Wow.
we do it for ourselves. And then also my ask for you is do it for someone else, and particularly for a young woman in your life, because I don't think our young women understand the significance and importance of a network. And so we can do that for her. We can make an intro. We can tell her what I've just said. Let's do it once a week. Ask that person to make another intro for them,
Yep.
and create that virtual circle. And because, it does build over time, right? The older you are and the bigger your network and so on, like this is going to grow over time. So the earlier you start, the more potential connections there will be for learning, for business opportunities. I always say, I just want to meet someone new. I just want to learn something new. That's all.
Right.
Can we just have a nice
Yep.
cup of tea and a chat? Just take the pressure off ourselves to do it. And who knows where it will end, sincerely.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I hear you, Jane. I mean, I think, and part of it too is that women are such great connectors, just naturally so. And maybe we need to get rid of the word
Well,
network, and call it
yeah.
something else, maybe
Gosh, what would
claim
we
it
call
as
it?
something else. What's
Yeah.
that?
I said, what would we call it? We should rename it now. Yes, totally.
But I hear you. It does feel awkward. And certainly in terms of my own work with coaching women, it's kind of a sense of feeling like we're used car salesmen or salespeople, if you will. And so often I find with women, they'll rather than say anything, they won't say anything at all, right? And then in terms of any
Yeah.
kind of interaction or self-promotion or anything like that, because to your point, it feels yucky. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, no, I hear you. I think we need to kind of redefine what that can look like for women. And the stats, I was totally unaware of the importance of networking and what that can do to our careers. So thanks for that. Oh, Asma has said, oh, look at this,
Yeah.
conscious collective, love it. And
Oh,
vibrant
yes.
constellation. Oh,
Oh my
lovely.
gosh. Ladies, this is
Yes.
fantastic. Yeah. Wow. Oh my gosh. There's an opportunity in there, ladies, for you to
Absolutely.
can just,
Yeah.
wow. There
Yeah.
is,
This is
yeah.
history in the making.
I
Wonderful.
love it. Thank you. You're so
I'm wondering,
creative.
let's open this up to the group.
Yeah.
Um, does anyone have anything to add in terms of reflections, experiences, or lessons learned around the whole importance of networking or the experience of networking? Would love to hear from folks. Feel free to just chime in.
One thing I've started here with my female wave of change is we do coffee hour once a month. And it's a
Okay.
time because I don't want it to always be a business meeting and talk. I really want to get to know each other's heart. So we have done coffee hour. We don't have any certain any topic. It just comes into whatever we want to talk about. And usually my first question is, so what can we celebrate with you today? And we do have,
Oh, I like
and
that.
what we're also doing is no topic is off the table as long as we have followed these few rules. First of all, we talk with compassion and curiosity. We also make sure that we are not degrading anybody, including ourselves. And so when you're asking about a question, like we had a discussion on the mask, on wearing mask or not wearing mask, and it was phenomenal. And we had people with different points of view, but we came in with compassion, we came in with curiosity, and we really were able to have a great discussion.
Wow,
Beautiful.
Patty.
Patty,
Yeah.
yeah, thank you for sharing. I really
Yeah.
love that. Thank you.
Lovely. We have some more contenders for new names. Harmony Matrix, the Rhizome. Ooh, love it. Anyone else?
I'll share, Alexandra.
Please do, Asma.
Yeah, I think for me, what I find interesting about networking and with women is when I lead my leadership programs, most women come very wary at the beginning, not trusting that there is really a sisterhood. They don't feel like other women are there to support them because maybe they have not experienced that. And so it takes a little bit of time for them to start to open up. And it's my job as a facilitator to create that safety and psychological safety and all of that. But it's so beautiful to see the magic that happens the moment that they fully open up and trust that this new network or this new constellation or harmony matrix or conscious collective or the rise zone gets created and how we can amplify their lives. And so I would love to hear in terms of what can be done at an early age or an early stage to really showcase to women it's just not because you have not experienced it yet that it does not exist. And there's a different way to experience other women and create this very strong virtuous circle that we can go faster together, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I
Thank you,
think we're
Asma.
all the example of this, you know, like should you
Yes.
reach extending the hand out to a younger member in our communities would goes a long way. Yeah.
Anyone else?
Alex, there's a few hands up. I don't know if you see them.
Oh, no,
Teresa,
sorry, I can't.
Anessa.
Yes, please do.
Yeah, so I think Teresa might have been first. So go
Thanks,
ahead,
Barb.
Teresa.
Great, thank you. Good evening. This is lovely. Thanks again, everybody. This is a lovely conversation. I've got two daughters, one's 28, one's 24. And I realized sort of a year into the pandemic that they were isolated as everybody else was. So when it got to the stage that we could have 10 people in one area, providing we're all spaced out, I just invited my two girls plus another 8 young women that I had come across through various sort of routes, whether it was someone I had trained, a couple of my associates that work with me, that I just thought were extraordinary young people who should actually be connected, and they didn't know each other. So we all came together and we all sat 2 meters apart in the house. And I said, the agenda is, there's no agenda apart from, as you know, I just wanted you all to meet each other, because I really feel that you all have something really special. And that's all I have to say, really. And they all just started speaking about what they're passionate about, what they love to do. The energy in the room was lovely. They were there for about 3 hours. I served tea and scones, and it was just, it was so lovely how they all just connected. And so we did it once a year ago. We did it again 6 months ago. And it's interesting. I sort of find people, I'm like, oh, that's who I'm going to invite next. And I don't really know them very well, but they've all been very open. I guess if I was a man, it would be different, like come to my home. But anyway, you know, but, and they love it. It's been really brilliant. Yeah.
Great. Yeah.
Thanks, Teresa.
Okay, Alex, I think the next person is Anessa Collins. Anessa, do you want to speak?
Indeed, I do. Pamela, thank you so much for bringing us all together and for the commitment that you have and your bigger why. I really appreciate being here. And thank you for the guest speaker tonight. Jane's been lovely to hear from, and I really appreciate this opportunity. I'm grateful. I am highly energized about knowledge exchange amongst women. And the reason I'm highly energized by that is because when we look at the scarcity of skills women typically have that lead to failure in business, we have research that indicates there are the same 5 systemic skill set areas. They haven't changed in decades. And as I look at it, we have those skills collectively, but we haven't found a framework for sharing and distributing them so that we can overcome those systemic skill scarcities. And like Jane had said earlier, we have these big systems around us that are slowly adapting. But I argue that if we make personal commitments to share what we know with compassion and heart, we have a bigger opportunity through the influence that we carry to make change faster for more people. Without waiting for systems to change, we can change how we work in our business, what kind of commitment we're giving with our personal time to support one another. But these skill scarcities are not new. We've been dealing with them for decades. And the only way to get over these hurdles is to work with influence together.
Thank you.
Yep.
Alex, there's two more people, Donna and Sabina, but I'll let you manage the time just to keep the flow going.
Sure. I have Deborah and Sabina. Deborah,
Yeah.
would you like to go next?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sometimes I get called Donna, so that's
I'm
okay.
sorry, Donna, that was my mistake. I need to put my glasses on more often. There
Sometimes
you
it's
go.
Barbara. I don't know.
Go ahead.
So as we know, the network and Zoom is here to stay, and I'm thankful for that because I quite like having the ability to be communicating with so many people on an ongoing basis. And I do find sometimes that it's a little high level where I don't quite get to know people in depth. And recently, some of the groups have been setting it up where there's smaller groups that get together, like 2 or 3 women that are getting together at another time, an hour on their own, so that they can get to know each other more on a personal basis to establish more of an intimate relationship, which I think carries through, it starts to have more depth, and you know the person and can relate to what they're doing. And even though it may not be something at this particular point, because there's a little bit more of a relationship, they stick in your mind and in your heart. And so if something comes up, they could be first that come to mind. And so for me, it's that, how can we have smaller groups of more intimate conversations about who you are as a person, what you believe, what you love, what your passions are, where you hope to go, what your dreams are. And then if there's, you know, what might be some issues like resistances, or how are you sabotaging yourself, or because these are universal principles. They're not unique to the individual. We all suffer various aspects of those archetypes. And so, so I really like the idea of having small, intimate groups where people can get to know each other.
Thank you. Sabina.
So, wow, I am absolutely fascinated and so grateful to have joined all of you today. It's really heartfelt. Over the last few years, I've become more involved in women kind of things from a health and wellness perspective, and trying to find that feminine self, because my background has been, you know, in the tech industry, public, private sector, and man, it's a tough go when you keep striving to break through that glass ceiling. So thank you for the sensitivity here today. And I just wanted to share 2 sort of real examples that have recently really come to mind and are happening now. First, around the power of the networking. I've been actually quite fascinated by a number of, you know, webinar type engagements with strangers that I've participated in. And I've had the men reach out from some of these sessions to want to have a conversation with me about career and so forth. And I think it's probably more on the mentorship side versus the coaching side. I'm still trying to figure out that blur. And they listen, and they are so grateful, and they ask questions. But I've never really had a young woman come to me for that same kind of purpose from that kind of environment. So so this conversation triggered that thought, how that's sad almost, you know, that the women don't step up for help. But then on the other hand, from networking to empowerment, I am having such joy right now supporting my soon-to-be ex-daughter-in-law, which is a result of my son making the choice to leave the marriage. And this is a young woman who, you know, got married, babies right out of high school, sponsored her to be able to stay in Canada, having come from a refugee claimant family where the rest of her family had been deported back to her home country. So she's in effect going to be left here with no one and 2 little boys. And in a matter of 2 months, to see her take, try to put the tears away or suppress them and take hold of, she's got to do something with her life. She's got to find out working. She, like, in matter of weeks, DoorDash, deliver food. She's been doing private house painting. She's taken courses, how to write a resume, how to do a job search, and she's landing some amazing entry-level job interviews.
Wow.
And working on her health and her fitness. Like, she's lost weight. The first part of the weight loss was due to the stress and the, like, what's going on here, because it was totally blindsidedness. And now it's like she's into kickboxing and just loving it and looks amazing. That, I think my son is starting to question his stupidity, but that's another story. But to have the privilege to be there for her, because her mom is not really accessible and doesn't understand either, the situation. And to see her start to bloom and grow is just so rewarding. I think maybe that little fear in the back is when she does become fully empowered and on her own, maybe I won't see my grandkids so much, but that's another story. But to see this and to have her appreciate me being there, I think is really tremendous. And I'm hoping that is an example of what you ladies speak to when you're speaking about empowering younger women, because that's sort of what I think I'm trying to do right now.
Absolutely, Sabina. Thank you. Thank you for that.
listening.
Beautiful. Thank you. And you're an incredible woman, Sabina.
Well, Alexandra,
Example
as
to
you
us
know,
all.
when it rains, it pours, and it's always
Yes.
pouring. Thank you.
We need to move on to our next piece. Catherine, I recognize your hand is up. Are you okay with sharing in the chat? Does that work for you? Thank you. All right. It's always a struggle, right? With quality and quantity and time and all that. So I appreciate that. Thank you, Catherine. Jane, you spoke about the 10 keys. And in Unlocked, you identified those in terms of, unlocking women's potential and for achieving gender equity. Can you share a few of your favorite ones and what they mean to you? That would be great.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. And I feel like we could be here all night, actually.
I know,
So
I hear you.
it's such a beautiful and rich connection together. Thank you. Well, the first one is it's a really quick one, actually, which is, and it's actually the first key in the book, which is just say yes. If a woman asks you for something, please just say yes. Because to your point, Sabina, it would have taken a really long time for someone to ask for help. There's a lot of courage, a lot of thinking it through, a lot of, toughening up to get to the point that they actually ask for help, because we're so bad at it. And so if they are asking for something, please say yes. And I'll move on, but that's my number one thing. And then number two is a little bit more difficult, which is, and it's actually my favorite when people ask me, what's your favorite key? And it's my favorite because it's the hardest one for me. And so here I go. This is actually talk about money. Oh man, it's like, makes me feel all weird. Now I got to get with the program with this, but and I know it's not the same for everyone. Don't get me wrong. Again, women are fantastic investors, et cetera, and many of us are really bad at talking about money. Similar networking things, right? I've heard people say, Sally Korchak, by the way, the founder of Ellevest, who is the first $1 billion women's investment fund. She was the founder of that. She would say, and forgive me for being a little crass for a second, but she would say, women would rather tell you what they did in the bedroom last night than talk about money. They'd rather tell their son to move out of their house because he's should have a place of his own, than talk about money, and so why is that? And I think a lot of it is how we grow up, and I'm slightly on the older generation with a few of us here on the call. Maybe the younger ones are not quite so much, but I was taught to save money. I was taught that it was rude to talk about money. I was taught to be careful with it. And we know that boys are taught that it's a tool, it's a vehicle. And if you have some of it, make it work for you, right? And I don't mean to be so black and white about it all, but maybe we can all, see some of these stories in our own lives. Some of the, regardless of that, there's money. It's such a big topic. There's so much I could say here, but the fact that we earn less money than men, the fact that we would save more. So women are fantastic with money. We know how to budget. We can run a household. We save our money. We take care of it. What we don't do when we have it is invest it. And that is not necessarily because we are risk adverse. It is because there aren't enough tools, aren't enough products out there for women investors, because we don't necessarily want to invest in the same way that men want to invest. Some of us do, that's fine. But mostly, at least the women that I know and have interviewed, really care about where their money is going. And if it is a vehicle for change, they want to know where that money's going. Is it going in the oil industries? Is it going in pharma, or is it going into education? Or is it going into small businesses owned by women and minorities? We'd like to know that. There are very few mechanisms today that allow us to invest and choose where that money gets invested. So thankfully, things are changing. There are many more of these products. There needs to be a heck of a lot more of them. A number that terrifies me, which I was not aware of, and I have a mom who lives in the UK alone. My dad passed 5 years ago. But something like 80% of women over the age of 65 have the potential to retire into poverty. Right, that can't be true. It just can't, So we need to make our money work harder for us. We have it. We are earning it. We might be earning a little bit less, 82 cents on the dollar compared to our male counterparts, but still, investing is one of the clearest ways to be building equity and building a generational wealth. So, and we're not going to get there if we don't talk about money. We don't talk about, hey, have you ever invested? Do you have a financial advisor? What do you do with your money? Except, for me, it kills me to tell you this because I'm having all shades of awkward about it. But I asked my husband for help. I now have a financial advisor. I am willing to put myself out there and talk more about money, because it needs to be as easy as sharing a tip about raising our kids and cooking a dinner. Like, what's the latest XYZ recipe, right? Needs to be that simple for us. And it's important because sadly, the way the world works is money still makes the world go round. And so whoever has the most money gets to decide what's most important and what's worth solving, right? And not all those things are, getting the right attention right now. We know that the baby boomer generation, there's a whole load of wealth transfer going to happen by 2030. Something like $30 billion of wealth is going to get transferred into the hands of women. And a lot of big companies know that, and they are building financial products for women now. So it's going to be a very exciting time for us. In the next decade, women will have vast quantities of money to invest and to spend. And I am just elated to see what we're going to do with it, right? So, sorry, I could prattle on about that, but just the bottom line is, and things to do, start a conversation, just, and these wonderful groups and circles that you're part of, be brave, be willing to say, maybe I heard this, British woman talk about this thing, and what do you think, and just to have an icebreaker and see where the conversation takes you. The last one, I don't know, do we have time? Do I have one more or not really?
Go for it, Jane. One more.
Okay, one more, quick. Sorry.
No worries.
what I call send the elevator down. And this is back to young women again. Oh, and by the way, the money thing, please, that's very important for the young women in your life. So Lean In and McKinsey do a Women in the Workplace study every year. They've done it for the past 6 years. And so they talk about the number of women CEOs, vice presidents, etc. The one number that has not shifted in 6 years is what they call the broken rung, which is the number of women who get to be first-time managers. So this looks like for every 100 men, 85 women become first-time managers. For Latino women, that's 71. And for Black women, it's 58. And so when people say we have a pipeline problem, I hate that. It's like chalk down the blackboard for me, because it absolutely isn't. And yet we know that if women don't get the chance to lead when they are young, they will never catch up. So everything that we can do to be supporting that young woman in getting her first managerial role, that doesn't mean leading people, it could be a project, taking responsibility for something. But that is something that we really need to focus on. So many companies want to look at women in the boardroom, women in the executive team, and now we need that too. But we also need to look at our young women as well in our organizations. And Donna, thank you for the question. And I'm so sorry, I don't know the answer. That wasn't in the study, and it really should be. Thank you for bringing the number of indigenous women. I am sure it is maybe even less now than the number of Black women, sadly. Yeah. Okay, I'll pause here. It was just the bottom line with the broken rung is it shouldn't be as hard for them as it was for us. So can
Totally agree, Jane.
Send the elevator down?
Yep.
Thank you. Cool.
So Jane, we're putting your digital coordinates in the chat as we speak.
Yes.
And is there anything else you'd like to share with us? If people want to learn more about you and your work, that would be great. Is there any sort of emerging news, anything like that? Would be wonderful.
Thank you. Oh, bless you. Well, I guess the big thing actually would be if you know a young woman in social change that you think would be a good fit for for our program, so that we're looking for women aged around 25, kind of up to 40, but they're generally between the ages of 25 and 35. Applications for our first program of this year are open, and they close on March 4th. So if you happen to know a young woman that would benefit, we'd love if you wouldn't mind sharing. That would be great. And I think, Michelle, thank you so much for adding this in chat. So the last link being the Coaching Fellowship, our organization, that would be the link to share. Thank you.
Thanks, Jane. I'd like to close our conversation with one of my favorite passages from Jane's book. It's a passage that actually gives me goosebumps. And here it is. To empower another woman is a selfless act with untold possibilities. Could it be your words that make her level up, her sense of worth? Could it be your actions that fundamentally changes the direction of her life? What if what you see in her, which she cannot see in herself, makes all the difference? A simple enabling step from you could well be, at its smallest point, a woman being supported, and at its peak, an earth-shattering leap set in motion for us all. That's the thing when you choose to empower another woman, you never know where it might end. And I just want to say that gives me goosebumps. Thank you for writing that, Jane. And I believe it never really does end. And that's really where the magic of empowerment lies, right? This is such an important topic and such an important conversation to be having, because the truth is, and the stats bear it out, that when women empower women, everyone wins. So Jane, thank you for being the generous woman that you are, who's committed to helping every woman shine, and for bringing your beautiful book to the world. Thank you, Jane.
Oh, goodness, thank you all so much. Thank you, Alex, dearly.
I'm going to turn it over to Pam. Sorry, Pam, we're running a little over, and Pam's going to walk us through our breakout chats. Thanks again. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Alex, and thanks, Jane. Wonderful conversation. I wish we could have kept going for another hour or so. There never seems to be enough time in these calls. So now we're going to go into breakouts, and Barb's going to set us up very soon, and she's going to do the debrief after. You're going to go into groups of, we hope, 3, but if you get more, not a problem. Each of you is going to have about 3 minutes, and we ask that somebody right off the mark chooses to become the timekeeper. The person who has the longest hair can start speaking. And we also ask that someone take some notes and be ready to share with the larger group when you come back. So the questions that you're going to focus on, first of all, you have the opportunity in your 3 minutes to introduce yourself to the group. And the 2 questions are, what inspired you and or what new insights did you gain from our featured guest, Jane, this evening? So that's the first one. I don't know, Michelle, do you mind putting that in the chat there? What inspired you and or what new insights did you gain from Jane? And the second question is, what one action do you commit to take to empower 1 or more women in your life? So what one action do you commit to take to empower 1? Michelle's so quick, she's already on it here. Sorry. So Barb's going to put you into groups, and we'll see you in about 10 minutes.
Great. Okay. Okay, Pam, all good. As usual, you and me. But it's 3 to a room, so yay, and with 1 room of 2, but that's
Oh,
fine.
awesome, Barb. Great job. Great
Well,
job.
no problem. Just how the numbers worked out tonight, so yay. Okay,
Yeah,
good.
so what inspired you, and or what new insights did you gain from Jane?
Oh, well, what inspired me? I love the title of the book, Unlocked. Yeah, some new statistics, I guess. Yeah, well, some of this I knew, but to some of the actual statistics, I know that women when you give to a woman, she gives back to her community. I didn't realize it was like 90%, whereas men,
I didn't know that either.
it's like 30 to 40. It's,
Yeah.
with a lot of the women's, or a few of the women's nonprofits I've worked with or interviewed the founders of in Africa, that's the whole thing about educating girls, right? Because when you educate a girl,
Yes.
you educate many.
Exactly.
They'll go back to their small communities and they'll teach. So anyway, but 90%, women tend to give back 90%. I also find it interesting, and this is true, the whole conversation around networking. Men tend to build like their inner circles, but also external. Like men are kind of doing, or it's just, whether it's natural or it's like trained or educated in them. Yeah, they're kind of always doing business. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And not just the cliche golf course or the lunch meeting, but they're very comfortable in that realm.
Yes.
Always talking business and making connections. Whereas again, women tend to, it's a meeting, they might be in a meeting, but they don't tend to be doing it while they're out socializing. Yeah, anyway, we're much more internal than external when it comes to connecting. I love the quote about it's the ripple, not the sea. So, one small thing can have a huge impact, one small action, big impact. And I also, in her 3 keys, actually the part about just say yes, well, yeah, but also there's the power of no. I did kind of, I agree, but I knew what she meant. But you can, when women can kind of overgive too, say yes too often at their own expense is what I'm saying. And then talk about money. Yeah, that again is often the case, but not always, in terms of investing. But here's the one that was new to me, or an interesting insight. And I love how it was expressed, to send the elevator down,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah.
so younger, like just keep helping raise younger women so
Yes.
we can raise others.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead, Pam.
No, that's fine. No, yeah, thanks for those shares. I agreed I with much of what you said in terms of new insights there. I guess the thing for me is I find challenging, because I'd like my daughter to get more involved and my daughter-in-law to get more involved in Female Wave of Change. And they're busy with kids. They got young kids, right? So it's like the sweet spot is the younger ones before they have kids, right? When they have kids, it's like, you know, like when I was visiting and I were working on the website over the holidays, I said to my daughter, I said, what, you know, I got her in and I said, what do you think? Should I say this? What do you think about that? So I got her involved. And so that was cool, right?
Right.
You know, it's like, and I've sent emails to my daughter and daughter-in-law, but I know it's like the middle of dinner time. They can't do it, right? So I wish that in some ways that I'd been more conscious about the leadership piece when my daughter was younger, because she's incredibly intelligent, right? And she's kind of keeping the same job, and they recognized her leadership from the get-go, and she's doing more than they expect her to, but she's not really getting paid what she should be based on marketing and doing all the stuff she does for them, you know? So I sort of said, well, have you asked for more money for this? Have you negotiated
and
this?
again, it's asking for money, right?
Yeah,
For many of us,
exactly.
that's uncomfortable. And yeah, it's cultural, because again,
it totally is. It is, but
you know
sending the elevator down, I think we need to do more of it. And so
Yeah.
that brings me to, how do we as an organization engage more younger women? Because, you know, we had these two personas that we talked about in our strategic marketing, right?
Yeah.
And we tend to attracting more older women, well, 50 plus, probably the majority.
Yeah,
Some
or
younger.
at least 40
plus, 40
Yeah.
plus, right?
Yeah.
And so how do we then access the younger ones, right?
Yeah.
And make them want to be with us, right?
Yeah. Well, and I think again, it's direct connections, like it's inviting young women to just come to
Yes.
a meeting and
Sure, it's
see what
true.
they might learn, right? You know, back to the whole thing about networking, and people, you know, some people don't like to do it because it's kind of salesy, or it's whatever they perceive it to be. I think if you reframe it as just a conversation and an invitation,
Yeah.
you know, that's what I do with my prospecting calls from my reset group, or wherever. It's like, don't always frame it that, oh my gosh, this is a sales pitch, or, you know, the intention is I got to kind of close something at the end, the deal,
That's true.
you know, whether it's sell something or book a call or what. Start with just framing it as an opportunity for a conversation.
Yeah.
And see where that conversation goes, which may go to, hey, I can recommend a great group for you that can connect you to other young women that might just be fun, or it might help you in your business, whatever the case, right?
Totally.
But you can make things an invitation rather than, oh my God, when, you know, another networking event. So
that's a good point, Barb. And so what one action, I know we're getting,
right, one action,
a couple more minutes, right?
Yeah, well, we've got about 2.5 minutes left.
Sure, because we went in a bit late.
One action, well, again, I would reach out to, I love the empower just one young woman, like in whoever that is. You know, my niece is 30, she's 30. She's gonna be 30, no, she's 31. And she's just a little powerhouse, you know. But yeah, you know, reaching out to her and always kind of mentoring her. Yeah, just really, it's fun for me, but it also, it really opens, it makes my heart dance. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
You know, and just see, so help somebody blossom.
Yeah.
Whoever that might be. And somebody new, maybe.
Yeah, I feel like I need to continue the conversation with my daughter, because usually when I call her, we're FaceTiming and I'm talking to my grandkids, right? And I want to follow up with her to find out, because she was supposed to have a conversation about getting more money for marketing, because that's not really in her job description. She does other things, but And so
Right.
she's doing it, and she was supposed to have that conversation in the new year. So I'd like to reconnect and talk to her about that and say, what about that? You know?
Yeah,
Follow
there you go.
up.
That's one small action, but that could be huge for her. Just quickly too, Pam, how did you manage when your kids were small? How did you do what you did? You know, when you're saying they don't have time.
I was very, very driven in terms of my work, right? I
Mm.
was fortunate when my kids were really young to have a nanny. That said,
Okay.
the nanny was there during the day, and as soon as I came home from work, she left. And my husband at the time was away 6 months of the year on the other side of the world. So I just think I had a lot of energy, and I would do, when I was with them, it was very much quality time. I'd get home from work and I'd take them to the park and we'd read stories and whatever. And then I would work after they went to bed, right?
Right.
So because, you know, I mean, with COVID as well, it's so much different when people have to do childcare at home. But, you know, I'd go, when I was teaching university, I'd go to the university and I'd do what I had to do. And then the nanny was working with the kids. And then when they were a bit older, then I took them out to daycare. So I'd take them in the morning and pick them up. But then, you know, it's just like, just had to do what you had to do, right?
Right. Yeah.
And-
Well, yeah, it's time management. And I always think of it as energy management as well.
Yeah, and I
right?
had a lot of energy. I must say I did. But the one
Yeah.
thing I noticed is with one child, it was easier to keep up with more externals, like being on committees or whatever. And with the second, I really cut back. So
Right.
thanks for asking, Brett.
Well, hey, I just thought that, you know, you've got your own wisdom and expertise. You've done it, you know, we can learn from our moms, whatever, friends. Yeah, anyway, I just closed the breakout room, so people will be back in about 40 seconds.
Okay.
And time wise, yeah, we still have time for takeaways, right?
Yeah, we have time for takeaways.
Maybe
for maybe
5 minutes,
4 or 5 minutes. Yeah.
4 or 5 minutes.
Yeah,
Okay.
5 minutes. Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, we'll keep it moving. Okay.
Yeah, we should probably give them 5. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. I'm just waiting for everybody to come back. Okay. Is everybody back now?
No, we only have 8 back.
No. So the answer is no. Not everybody's back yet. Okay. They're all still. There we go. 28 people are back. I think everyone's back or close to everyone. There we are, 30 people. Okay, everybody. We'd just like to take a few minutes, 4 or 5 minutes, so we can respect everybody's time for the meeting. Who would like to share some of their key takeaways? What did you discover in your conversations in your little breakout rooms? Anyone want to raise your hand?
Oh,
Okay. All right. And I'm going to go to Hannah. We haven't heard from Hannah yet. Can you just unmute, Hannah, and go ahead and share? What's your takeaway?
I certainly can. Hello. I was with Rika as well as Sabina. And I'll summarize briefly just kind of the 3 takeaways that we gathered. So mine was the idea that I am potentially one of the younger people on this call, and just to know that there are women somewhere in this world that are actually reaching and driving and trying to tap into me, just knowing that. And I shared the metaphors. It feels like I'm falling in a feather bed. Like I have support. And
that's so beautiful.
So that was mine. And Rika shared an insight of what she'd like to take away is just being able to tap into the communication with men. So she really resonated with Jane's share about how to tap into men and communicate and connect that way. So she's ideating on strategies she can use to implement, not just on the work front, but outside of work. And Sabina made a joke that she should take up golf, which I thought was pretty funny too.
Why not? Okay, great. Thanks, Hannah. Thank you.
No problem.
That's a beautiful share. Okay, Donna, how about you? What would you like to share?
Oh, I had a beautiful session together with Susan. We've been together several times, so we're beginning to feel like very old friends in the breakout room. As seniors, we really resonated with the fact that we wish we'd known now, when we were 20, when we were 30, when we were 40, what we know now, and how connecting to the younger women in our circles and creating wisdom circles, which Pam has talked about many times, is really important for sharing the wisdom. We don't have those tribal circles, those networking, familial business circles that our grandmothers and our mothers had. And their circles actually kind of prevented them from stepping out of the box. And our circles can help women not just to step out, but to actually have wings that lift them. So my takeaway and Susan's takeaway is we're going to actively seek out the young women in the organizations that we're already attached to and start these circles of conversation.
Beautiful. That's beautiful. And those wisdom circles here at Female Wave of Change are coming. Pam may speak to that later. Those are in process though, just so you know. Okay, 2 more quick shares. Go ahead, Deborah. I'll get your name right this time.
Thanks. Okay. Well, I was lucky to be with Jane and Michelle Rogers. And interestingly, both of them really don't like the idea of gender equity, because Jane feels that we really need to reinvent the whole system and not call it gender equity. And Michelle doesn't like it because it just makes for differences. And Jane had a nice suggestion I had never heard before about intrapreneur. It's going into corporations and being kind of a coach, a guide within corporations of people that have all that knowledge.
Oh, I love that. Intrapreneur. That's beautiful. Sort of, start from the inside and change the way people do things right from the inside. Beautiful. Those are great insights. Okay, Anessa, last share, and then we're going to move on.
Certainly. And so I had the opportunity to be with Marlene, and we had another friend with us as well that was attending by car. And I do not know how to pronounce her name appropriately, so I will not attempt at this point, but she was engaged with us. She just couldn't be in the breakout room in terms of verbal participation. So what inspired Marlene tonight was the particular section that Jane covered on women and the broken rung, right? That we have 100, what was the statistic, Jane? The 100 to 85, the amount of women that go into their first year of opportunity to be a first-time manager versus a man. That really struck Marlene. And also that we need to be the change and the narrative amongst ourselves. We can't really rely on other things around us to move the needle, which I think is a great insight. And all that I added was that I've got to stop playing small. I've thought about starting a group for months. I do a lot of mentorship with young women on the fly. I jump in and resolve all sorts of things together with them in a team kind of sage to mentor environment. But I've been thinking about putting together a circle for a year and I haven't done it. And it's time to get off that egg and actually let that hatch.
Beautiful. Taking action. Beautiful. Thanks, Anessa, and thanks everyone for your shares and your insights. And okay, Pam, I'm going to send it back to you.
Okay, well, thanks. It's always so invigorating and inspiring to hear everybody and your input. So thanks everybody for your active engagement here tonight. I wish we had more time. I'm just going to share my screen. I'm going to talk to you a bit. Here we go. Can everyone see the slides?
Yes.
Reshaping the future? Okay, great. Okay, then here we are. So I'd really like to share with you a little bit more about Female Wave of Change Canada, particularly those folks who haven't been with us before, and also share the benefits of membership and how you can join if you feel called to do that. So who are we? We're a diverse and welcoming, I hope you got this evening, welcoming community of women committed to strengthening feminine leadership and leading change toward a better world. We are part of this global movement, and the URL for that global movement is femalewaveofchange.com. And we have core values that are central to who we are, and they include authentic feminine leadership, partnership and collaboration, gender equality, embracing diversity, and interconnectedness and sustainability. And these are fleshed out in more detail on our website at FWOCcanada.com. So we encourage people to join us because we are change makers, and so are all you. I could tell tonight, everybody who spoke. It's an opportunity really to share your knowledge, your expertise, and contribute to the development of impactful events and projects in 5 pillar areas. At the international level, we have 5 pillars. They are education, environment, economy, health, and humanity. And my vision for Female Wave of Change Canada is to create 5 pods and in these similar areas. We have a project, which I think Barb or someone alluded to before, called the Mother Earth Ambassador Project that Rita, one of our members, is going to speak about in a few minutes. That's the first project that we've co-created as a group of members that we want to move forward with. We're quite excited about that and how that's working. It's an opportunity to mentor and be mentored in our group, to be a featured guest at our monthly meetings, to guest blog, to co-facilitate a pillar, to facilitate a workshop. We're moving more into offering workshops, and there will be not only, there'll be special member rates, and then they'll also be open to the public. And it's also an opportunity to champion authentic feminine leadership. So this new member benefit that Barb spoke about a few minutes ago briefly is we are launching collective wisdom circles starting March 2nd. They're an opportunity to share wisdom and learn from one another in community. There are 10 members maximum per circle. They're meeting once a month for an hour and a half, and we're going to do the pilot, and it's going to be 3 months to start. I'll be starting off the first pilot, and the topic we've chosen is dealing with change and uncertainty personally and professionally. We do have 2 spots left, so if somebody would like to join, please get in touch with me at Pamela@femalewaveofchange.com. Love to have you on board for this, and we hope to be rolling out more of these in the future. And based on tonight, looking at how maybe we can do, Deborah was talking about smaller circles. Few people have been talking about circles. Maybe we'll be spinning out these collective wisdom circles in different directions. So we're always open to learning and growing from you all. So to recap, the benefits of membership include connecting with a global community of women from diverse backgrounds and cultures, contributing to impactful events and projects. We co-create these events with the featured guests, experience firsthand the power of collaborative partnerships. You may meet women within the group that you choose to partner with and do business with, and/or you may find within the group that within a project, you create something together and run it through Female Wave of Change. Enjoying leadership development and mentoring at the international level. There is a Women Leading in Change leadership development program. I'm pleased to be on the faculty, honored to be on the faculty of that. It's a diverse faculty from all over the world. It rolls out now about every 6 months for 3 months, and it includes participants from all over the world as well. Showcase your expertise at a monthly meeting or event. As I mentioned before, you could be the featured guest. Recommend like-minded speakers. Apply to speak on regional, global stages. We've the last couple of years had global conferences, virtual conferences. They used to be in person in different countries. And so this provides an opportunity for all members to submit an idea. And then this year we had a few of us speaking, and one member who was the executive producer, Charmaine Hammond, of a film, an amazing film called Coming Back Home Again. Anyway, and so she had the opportunity, and some of us from Female Wave of Change looking at sharing this documentary film that can be used to speak about mental health and resilience in schools and communities and families, for an example, and receive member pricing on events, courses, and more. Right now, we haven't been charging for our monthly meetings, but moving forward, they will be a member benefit. We haven't decided yet when that's going to happen. And if you come as a guest, then there'll be a fee for people who are not members. The annual membership is $100, which we think is very accessible based on what you get and the increasing benefits that we're rolling out. Just a couple testimonials here. One's from Lorene Card. She's not with us tonight. She's a women's executive coach, speaker, and a lawyer. She said, I've gained connection, clarity, and inspiration from being a member of Female Wave of Change Canada. I find the meetings are always inspirational, and part of that is the connection with women with a similar mindset and a similar mission. One of my primary reasons for joining Female Wave of Canada is because it is so action-oriented. I worked on the Environment Project, which has been a really interesting process because it's been organic. I've enjoyed connecting with other women around that and creating it from the ground up. Another one from our very own treasurer and CEO of Virtually There CFO Services, Michelle Rogers. Besides filling up my energy on a monthly basis, I find the meetings inspirational. I've been able to connect with some amazing women. A highlight was facilitating the discussion at last month's meeting. That was my first time facilitating, and Pam was a supportive partner to do this work with. So I encourage you to check us out and consider joining us at femalewaveofchangecanada.com. There is a become a member button, and there's also a button on the homepage. And join us in helping reshape the future and moving forward and building our community in Canada. Any questions? Does anybody have any questions about Female Wave of Change and membership?
It's Sabina.
Yes, Sabina.
Sorry. So I noticed women are from across the country here. Are there like sections or chapters or groups provincially or locally as well? Or is it just the one big national organization right now?
That's an excellent question, Sabina. Right now, we're a national organization. My vision is to have groups in different places. So that's why we're trying to recruit people from, like, we've got a few people from Ottawa. We have more people in the West right now. When we think of it, maybe in 5 years, there could be, for example, a group in Ottawa and vicinity, just say, and they would have local events. I think we'll always have a national event, whether it's going to be a monthly meeting. I'm not sure about that. So right now we're really trying to build, but in future there will be local community things. And we're even talking in the Victoria area, because we've got a few members, of getting together and going for brunch or something, right? But the idea is not only to meet professionally, but also meet personally and do some social things together. So yes. And so if you join us now, you can help us build the organization and input your vision in terms of what you wanted to do. Because let me tell you, Ingun Bull, the founder, did not tell me how to roll this out. This is me doing it with a great board and listening to members and growing it. So we are doing something very unique in Canada, just so you know.
That would be great, because I'm a member of a number of professional organizations, right, that have sort of their local presence, you know, of groups and membership. And I think that kind of model, you know, is something that can be adapted to a degree, because there's tremendous other women groups here in Edmonton as well that I know that one could draw from and all. So it'd be good to know how to intersect with the other women's groups that I'm hearing about.
Thank you, Sabina. Really, somebody's asking here, how do we sign up? Michelle, I don't know whether we can do this right now. If you go to female, here, I'll put the URL in here, or Michelle, can I ask you to do that? Put our Female Wave of Change Canada URL in, and then there's a page that says become a member, but actually it's really also on the front page. I believe it's a yellow button. I don't have it right in front of me here, but it's pretty clear how you sign up. You just click the button and then you fill in your info, and we have Stripe, and that's how you do it. Is that what you meant? The person who said it, because there's a bunch of stuff in the chat here, and I'm not sure whether you sign up for, you're talking about a collective wisdom circle or signing up to be a member, just to be clear. Oh, Anessa, that's great. Ambassador of Conscious Circles in the Okanagan. Get in touch with me so I don't forget this one. Here we go. Michelle's always on it. Here you go. There's the link, FWOCcanada.com, become a member. So yeah, and it goes through again the member benefits for those.
Also,
Okay.
Pam, just quickly, I just want to remind people they can save the chat so they have all the links, not just
Thank
to
you.
email Wave of Change Canada, but also all of Jane's contact information. Does everyone know how to save the chat? The 3 little buttons on the far right.
Yeah, beside the
Drop
whole
down
happy,
and save
happy
it.
face, yeah.
Yeah.
And save it.
Anyway, just a reminder.
Thank you, Barb. Okay, I'm going to move on. I hope we're going to keep people a little bit later tonight because we have something else on the agenda. So hopefully you'll all stay with us for a few more minutes. So thank you all for your attention here. So I'm going to hand it over to Rita. Rita Fromholt is one of our members, and she's the co-project manager of our environment project, Becoming a Mother Earth Ambassador. And she's going to share a little bit about it and then invite you to contribute.
Thanks, Pam, and thanks everybody for hanging in. I know people are probably hungry and tired, and this is a bad spot to be doing a presentation, but I'll try to be quick and punchy. So as Pam said, you know, one of the things that makes this organization different from maybe some of the other networking groups that you belong to is we actually want to not only host these kind of events and the circles, but we actually want to do a project. We want to demonstrate in some way our principles in really tangible ways that impact some people's lives. And Pam, do you want to, you're going to make me co-host, or I should be able to share my screen? Let me try it. Okay. Let me assume everybody can see my screen.
Yeah, we can see it, Rita.
Awesome. Okay, I'll try and be quick. I've just got a few slides here to explain. We've talked about this a little bit, what this is. It comes out of one of the pillars of the organization, which is environment. And that as a group, we agreed earlier last year that our first project will be something focused on the environment. And through lots of different meetings, we formed a little committee, a small but mighty committee. Dawn is here tonight, and Lorraine, who you heard about in the testimonial as part of our group, came up with this idea to create an experiential learning program for young girls. And the mission is to empower girls with the understanding of the inherent power and beauty of the forest, and with the many mental, physical, and spiritual benefits of being in nature. It will instill confidence and develop the skills so that the girls can become leaders in their communities, schools, and families as ambassadors of Mother Earth. So the project details are that it'd be an experiential outdoor leadership program for girls specifically aged 9 to 12. It will combine elements of scientific inquiry, so you know, the science of being outdoors in the forest, storytelling, traditional indigenous knowledge, and leadership skills. It will take place over 8 days, so 2 weekends and 4 follow-up days outside of regular school time. And we hope to have a pilot in early 2023. And it will be led by an experienced facilitator who's going to develop the curriculum for us, create a facilitator's guide and an evaluation of the pilot. And we have found an amazing young woman who runs her own organization who does rites of passage educational programs for girls already. And she has a master's degree in this area. And she's agreed to come on contract with us and do this work together with Pam and I and the community. We think she's an ideal fit for this, and she's very keen to work with us. So we were lucky to find her. And we also need, after the pilot, to find project partners to deliver the program going forward. Obviously, we can't keep running it, and she may run it again at some point, but the idea is that we are able to launch this program nationally through different organizations, so it can be run through lots of different avenues across the country. Now, we identified a need here about climate and environmental grief amongst children. You know, the world is very different than when most of us grew up. Some of the younger people on this call may go, oh, yeah, I know what that is. But I know when I was growing up, environmental issues were things like recycling and maybe air pollution and a few other things. Young people today are growing up in a climate, you know, social climate, the media, everything they hear from their friends about climate change. And it's pretty doom and gloom. And there's lots of research that's showing that this is actually having an effect on children. And there's some feelings of powerlessness in there. So this program will hopefully create a feeling of powerfulness and the fact that instill the fact that they can do something. There's also COVID restrictions and lack of outdoor access. So we know children were greatly affected by the COVID restrictions. Adults like to complain and honk horns and things, but children not being able to go to school and be with their friends, particularly being outside and doing all the things that kids do, has had a big effect on children. So this is a way to get them out and interacting again. And I'm sure you've all heard there's overwhelming evidence that just in general for everyone, spending time outside in nature and forests in particular improves physical and mental well-being. So that's for children, but it's also for everyone. The other thing we recognize that in our culture, we're lacking rites of passage, ceremonies and acknowledgements for girls transitioning into womanhood. Used to be something that Indigenous cultures had, different places and sometimes in different churches acknowledged it, but we don't do that anymore. Even though it's a massive change that we all know we've all been through, it just kind of goes unacknowledged to a large extent. So working in this age group is a way to acknowledge these girls moving into womanhood. And just the whole concept of the mother tree, if you haven't heard about it, but the mother tree actually takes care of the forest, and it can provide some powerful symbolism of feminine leadership for girls. And the woman that we're hoping to hire to do this understands that quite well. And there's quite a bit of good research done by Sierra Club's educational program and others that will help guide us there. Now the why is that you think, well, there are definitely a lot of outdoor educational programs for children, but we could not find any outdoor education programs that are specifically targeted at girls in this age group. And none specifically emphasize the feminine power of trees and nature. They're always like, go pick the mushrooms and the roots and analyze it and all this, but taking it into a larger context of empowerment, we did not see anywhere. And when you look at all the changes, we talked about today, changes that need to be done in the world, environmental problems being just one, but also all sorts of social problems, political problems, changes that need to happen inside corporate structures. It's largely acknowledged that feminine leadership styles, as we were discussing earlier with Jane, will lead the way in that. And this is a way to really instill this in girls in a very vulnerable age group. So these girls in this group are the leaders of tomorrow. So we're hoping to have a very positive impact on some who will participate in our programs. So maybe I'll pass it over to Pam at this point, because she's good at making a pitch, but we have come up with a budget to pay the facilitator and run the first pilot program, including facilitator's guide and evaluation, of about $18,000. And we basically don't have that money. And we've come into some restrictions because we're not a registered charity. A lot of corporations and the more traditional sort of granting processes and that we don't qualify for because we can't give a tax receipt. So we're looking for sponsorship and personal donations. So maybe I'll pass it over to Pam at this point.
Well, Rita, you've done a great job, and Rita put these slides together and they're so beautiful. And thanks for sharing. We basically, a group of us, 6 of us, came up with this. We met about every 2 weeks from early July to the end of September. And that's when we co-created the parameters for this project. And then since then, we've been working toward looking at how do we roll it out and finding the excellent facilitator that we did, that we have found, that Rita shared. And we will be working very closely with her because we have the broad brush. However, she will be doing the pilot and helping us with the facilitator's guide. So yes, so if you feel called and you see that this could be a way for you to give back, we would welcome your donations. On our website, at femalewaveofchangecanada.com, and there is a blue donate button at the top right hand of the page. And if you have any ideas about leads of potential sponsors for our program, feel free to get in touch with me at Pamela@femalewaveofchange.com. So yes, I guess we don't really have time for a lot of questions. If someone had something burning, do you want to stop sharing, Rita?
Sure.
If somebody has some question, we've got a couple things in the chat. This is a beautiful program. Thank you very much, Deborah. Yeah, it was really cool to just funnel it down and come up with something. Yeah, as a group.
There's a lot more detail in there, but that's the high points.
But that was
Yeah.
beautiful, Rita, what you put together.
I just have two quick questions. First one is, what is the minimum donation level if we want to donate? And two, is there any sponsorship package, just so that way we are clear, so if we have any connections, we can mention this program to them.
Excellent questions, Asma. Thank you. Okay, I would say we haven't set parameters on the minimum. I would say it would be great if you could donate at least $50, but you know, if people feel called, donate what you can. The other thing is we have a sponsorship person who's on our committee, and she basically recommended that we don't do bronze, gold, whatever. So we don't have a package yet. That said, I feel like now that we've got a PowerPoint, there might be a way to build a sponsorship package. And Asma, if you have some ideas about that, we welcome those too, because I know you have a strong background in marketing. So hey, we want to bring our,
join our committee.
Yeah, there you go. Or give us input anyway. So thank you.
Yeah, definitely. I'll check that out, because I did launch a similar project 5 years ago, but it was for young kids, like girls and boys. So I'm thinking about that organization to reach out to you and for you guys to talk for sure, because I'm sure they can sponsor something. And yeah, happy to help with any of my marketing genius to support this initiative.
Well, thanks, Asma. And I think Anessa said something here. Our nonprofit says we are incorporated as a national nonprofit, but I didn't go for charitable status. So we're national and nonprofit without charitable status.
Sure. So there's a lot of opportunities to still access a lot of grants where a tax receipt isn't your burden, and you probably have a lot of expertise that you can grab. But I just went through launching a nonprofit last year and had to take a deep dive into that. But the grant database that's available to you, often through an intermediary, you can have your intermediary provide your tax receipt. There's just other ways to access funding that don't require you to be a charity.
Yeah, and no, that's really helpful. If you have, a database information you'd like to send to me. I personally, because I've done a lot of grant writing and managed huge international projects and written and had to report on them, my personal bias is not to go for grants initially. I'd rather go for sponsors and donations, just because I don't want to spend hours of my life writing reports. Because I've been there, done that on different levels. So anyway, however, I do appreciate what you're saying very much. So Susan, did you want to share something?
Yes. Yes, I just wanted to say, as part of a sponsorship package, but perhaps even separate, would be a social media package. Even a smaller business like myself, if you give me posts, then I can start sharing to various groups that I think might be interested, that I'm a member of, and on my own Facebook and Instagram and so on. But, it's really helpful if there's the verbiage is there and the beautiful visuals like we saw with the lovely presentation right now. And are you with GoFundMe? But we could get the word out, all of us, faster if there was a lot of communication already created. And are you with GoFundMe? Because
we decided not to go with GoFundMe, because typically it's for people, not for projects. That was the guidance that we were given by someone who's done a lot of sponsorship. because it was suggested. So thank you for that. And Susan, what a great idea. Really appreciate that. So we'll put our thinking caps on and we may come to you for some guidance around that too. If you have some, I know you're a very creative soul. So anyway, I feel like I don't want to keep people too long here. I'm usually really good at time, being a facilitator for many years. But, unless, does somebody have something burning? Otherwise, we'll go to close. Okay, then. So what I'd like to do is just share my screen one more time and just say to you that first of all, just let me put this up. I want to say thank you before we move. I want to say thank you all for being here tonight and for your incredibly interactive, engaging discussions, and to Jane for taking time and sharing the wonderful work you are doing in the world, and Alex for facilitating that conversation. Great job. So thank you all. Our next monthly meeting, we meet the third Wednesday of every month from 4:30 to 6 p.m. Pacific, 7:30 to 9 p.m. Eastern. It is Harmonize Your Fire and Flow for Success in Life and Business with our featured guest, Asma, who you've heard speaking tonight. Mescal is a transformational coach, business strategist, and founder of the Fire and Flow Business Leadership Academy. And you can register at the link. And just so you know, with our new website, if you go to the events page, usually a day after this event, the new bit.ly link is up there. We have a media person who does that for us. So if you capture this now, great. If you don't, by sometime tomorrow, the new link should be up under the events page on our website. So thank you all again, and look forward to hopefully seeing you next month. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thanks,
Thank
Pam.
you,
Thanks,
everyone.
everybody.
Thanks,
Thank
Jane.
you.
Thanks,
Thank
Rita.
you
Great
so much.
presentation.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Till next time. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.